Ever heard of a cargo cult? Well, neither had I until today, as I was watching Vsauce. He put together a playlist that highlights this tribe in New Guinea. It seems during World War II, both the Japanese and Americans made some military bases and makeshift landing areas for their cargo planes, bringing large volumes of materials and goods into their area. Upon leaving, when the war was over, these bases and landing strips were now vacated, and there was no more activity, no more large volumes of goods coming in, and the tribal people, not understanding technology, Western society, or how far advanced we were, yet the fact that we were just humans like them, wanted to try to attract these advanced beings back to their area so that they would bring these goods back with them and continue the day in and day out landings that they had once observed. As such, they began recreating their own landing strips, mimicking the military personnel behavior, even coming up with mock airplanes and flight equipment. It seems silly because here's an uneducated tribe of people that just don't understand how airplanes work, that don't understand how things can fly over the mountains carrying people and cargo. And so their reaction was to almost treat the Western person as though they were gods and build monuments that they had seen the Western people themselves use, and they wanted to reconnect in and of themselves, even though that's a very interesting development. I wasn't motivated after watching the video to make a video highlighting them. Instead, what motivated me to make this video was a comment made just below the video, presumably by an atheist or some type of skeptic of faith practices. Username Makaz1329 says, "This is what religious people will look like to people in the future." I've noticed when I interact with skeptics that a lot of times if you can step away from the intended insults and really look at what they are saying, not only can you typically figure out where they're coming from, but a lot of times unknowingly, which is the case here I believe, they leave behind a nugget of truth that they probably never intended to leave. So this is how I responded to him, and I'd love to find out if you agree or disagree. I said, "Interesting comment, especially when you consider their reactions were based on real experiences and actual facts. They were visited by airplanes. They may not have understood much more than that, but the desire to reconnect with those that came to visit is a very human one." In today's culture and society, we have such an arrogant point of view about our ancestors. We use the excuse that it was an ancient society writing down these stories of folklore, and so we've dismissed them as fairy tale, and we say books like the book of Genesis were written because those people in those times just didn't understand science, and they had to have a way to explain their existence on this plane. People in Jesus' time really did experience the historical man named Jesus Christ, and they did their best to record these spectacular events, whether they understood it or not. They were walking around with God in the flesh. They didn't understand the resurrection from the dead. We barely understand it today, even though we have medical advances that often bring people back from the dead, like CPR, shock panels, etc. I think the more humble approach to take when viewing any ancient culture is to assume that you were in that time and assume that you were trying to record something in posterity for the benefit of your lineage in the future? Would you want your grandson to the 20th generation to look back on your writings, your advice, your wisdom, and think it was just plain silly? I should hope not. As much as we could go back and teach these folks some things and impress them and wow them with our technology, I think it's a very arrogant stance to take that they cannot teach us anything.